Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Cyber Weekly. Today we welcome Famious. Famious will tell us about herself and who she is and why she's one of the biggest ladies in AppSec in the country, maybe even in the world. I don't know. We shall see if you match up with Tanya Jenka or something. So yes. So who is Famious? If someone
Yeah,
does not know who is she?
thank you, Deo, for having me on the Cyber Weekly. It's really an honor to be here. And well done on the work that you're doing, pushing the narrative to make sure people know about the work that we do. So kudos to you. Who is famous? I am a female Ugandan. I live in Uganda currently, and I love it here. I I'm a bubbly person. I am very extroverted. I love to talk and share experiences with people. I like to get to know people and to discover more about their experiences, their journeys. So I'm a very conversational person, and I'm a firstborn daughter. So I have characters of nurturing people and trying to help them better themselves. So I'm very passionate about bringing warm energy and I love tech, which explains I'm working in tech. I enjoy learning new things and breaking new challenges and, of course, new ceilings. And tech gives me that. So it's very fulfilling. And I love traveling. It's a hobby, it's also a dream, to travel the world and see the world with different in different places, different countries. It really opens up your mind and your world to different things. I also love music. I sing whenever I can, and I don't know if I would survive if I had to make money out of it, but I love to sing. I sing all the time. My friends say I have a song for almost everything. I'm those people where you finish a statement and I have a song with your last word. But yeah, simply that's a little bit about me. I am yet to have any kids, and yeah, that's really about me.
Okay. So the next question is, how did you break into the field and what were your biggest challenges when you broke into the field? Especially for your title, which you have not yet even mentioned what your title is, but yes, for your title.
So much not to let my work define who I am. So I try to bring myself into my work. So currently, my role, I serve in a bank, in a financial institution, as an application security specialist and specifically offensive security testing. So, which is majorly watching over the estate in terms of web applications, APIs, gateways, and all enhancements that go into the business of delivering what we do to our clients. Whatever new enhancement is to say, can I have a look at it and give an assurance that it's strong, it has the controls according to the policies and standards, and also to monitor for any new weaknesses or vulnerabilities that could arise and might need immediate attention or otherwise. So, majorly, that's my day to day. And so that's my role. Yeah, but how did I break into tech? I would say it is an amazing story because I originally did telecommunications engineering in Algeria, which is in North Africa. And it was a dream of mine from high school. I did physics and math, and I thought I will be working in the biggest telecommunications company in Uganda or abroad because I always wanted to travel to a French speaking country, which explains I also speak French. So I always wanted to work in a telecom company in a French speaking country. That was the small dream I had. So I studied in Algeria, and after my degree, I could really not continue to go and do a master's at that time because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to master in. and other factors. So I decided to come back home. Why I decided to come back home was to figure out what the market needs and what is the worth of a telecom engineer? What do we do in the real world? How do we, where do I go? So I came home and I couldn't find work immediately. So I went into customer care service and morphed into different roles, including sales and then admin work, which now led me to discover that we had so much data we were collecting. Now, I kept on engaging a lot with IT people in the organization, which helped me to see a gap that we had a lot of information collected and we were working with so many clients. And I kept wondering, but when we were trying to do ISMS, I realized we could have a gap of an information security officer. I had already started the journey of cybersecurity back in campus. When I was doing CCNA, I think people know what CCNA is. So that's when my instructor told me about cybersecurity. She forced me to do this, the first fundamental course. And she said, "Oh, you need to do this. I think it's a thing for the future and it will be good for you according to your character and everything." So I didn't give it much thought, but I did it. However, I didn't even certify with it. So I picked it up now that I was seeing this gap in the organization and thought, where can I go? What can I do? And that's how the dream woke up again. And this is like 2 years or three out of university. I think it was a bit of some time. I did other jobs, but I kept on discovering more things about myself and my character and what I could do to get back into tech. So it wasn't very difficult because in telecommunications, we have those modules that talk about networking and other things. So it was a bit easier. So I picked it up and I started online. I did Cyber, I did Udemy, I did almost very, very many courses, YouTube. I was self teaching and I figured there was so much to learn. Of course, there was so much because cybersecurity covers everything. It doesn't only cover small bits and pieces of what you want. So I was overwhelmed with information. That's when I went on a search for boot camps, and I always found free communities, Google developer communities. Um, Outbox Hub in Uganda had many opportunities to teach you how to use GitHub, to make your first repo, to all those things, web applications, writing your first code. I would visit so many hubs like Innovation Village had free boot camps. And in my mind, I thought I always identified myself as an information security person. I said I'm a cybersecurity person. So I'd be among developers and I'll just tell them my goal is to become a cybersecurity person. So that's when I figured I need to find a school. So I found a school in Uganda which was offering boot camps. The school is called Milima Academy, Milima Cyber Academy. And I enrolled. And I want to say this right now because I didn't have like a lot of financial, you know, support or anything. And it's not like my job was paying me a lot, but I was passionate. So I decided I'm going to speak to the school and allow they would allow me a payment plan. And so which they did. So I would cut my salary probably into half or when I finished paying some of the other things. So my school fees was my priority. So I'd pick my school fees first, pick some money that I could give off, and then I paid it over the period of the 3 months I was doing that course. And yeah, that's how my school started. Then when COVID was done, I volunteered for an internship. And this was again at a company that belongs to that academy. They were happy to have me. They were very helpful. They opened up their doors for me to learn on the job because even when I had finished that course, I had to go into CTFs, catch the flag competitions. I had to sign up for different programs still online, which COVID was really good because I could now sit back and fast practice the things we had learned in the classes. And when I went now to intern, that was that I never looked back. Yeah. So you asked me about the challenges. I think I've mentioned them in the submission. It's mostly about too much information, not organized. You don't know what to do, where to go, what to do before what. And that was really a challenge. The other one was, of course, financial, because it's not cheap. Some nowadays, actually, there are less and less free courses. You can get some free, but others you have to pay. And of course, most of the certifications are not cheap. But also, I had not very many examples to look at. I can say that at that time, it's not so long ago, but I think ladies were doing these things, but they were not really talking much about them. It's now that we have some few ladies that are showing us you can do this, you can actually be a full lady and do all that. So I didn't have so many examples, but I'm starting to discover them. They have been around for long. And of course, the bias, it comes in. Oh, are you sure she knows what she's talking about? Are you sure? Because she's a lady, are you really sure? So they don't say that, but there is that underlying um, bias, which you have to break by really knowing what you're talking about. And that comes to learning. Yeah.
That was the short of it.
That's I'll try to keep it short, but
That was the
with
short of it. So what skills do you think are the most valuable in this AppSec today? What skills do you find key when you are studying and when you are now doing it actually hands-on? What do you feel are the skills which are standing out for you?
So I will start with the major things that we think are maybe not. We don't actually think, we know. But it's important to be very critical, to be very curious, analytical, and also to pay attention, because everything else depends on those things. You can't, you have to get it right every time, because you can't guess. So it's a skill that you have to build to see that you are very analytical and you pay a lot of attention. Then you also have to be able to communicate. Very key. I have realized as I started, I kept on asking, but what do we do exactly? What's our main goal? And I think one of my teachers is always saying, he told me, I just can't understand you. Why are you even here? Because I would ask and I needed clarity. And it's not because I didn't understand the first time. I just wanted to make sure what they have said and what I've understood are the same thing. So I would encourage anyone who wants to get into this field or any field really to be able to communicate both technically and non-technically, and then of course to stay the course, because starting is good, but if you don't stick to it, it will not, you will be, you'll see the networking and you're like, this is so difficult. You look at everything, every level you get to will give you a different level of difficulty. So it's about that persistence to remain and stay the course. And of course, I think that the technical skills are very, very key, are very important. You cannot skip them. And that depends on what you've chosen to focus on. But even if you don't, it's important to understand the networking, to understand how the web works, to understand what you're protecting. The languages, you don't have to write them, but you need to be able to read them. So that little effort to make sure you understand the problem before you can come in with a solution is very important. So cybersecurity is not really only about breaking like people think. It's really more, there's policy, there's governance, there's identity, there's so many things. However, all those things are hinged on the technology we are protecting and the data that we're keeping. So it's very important, I think. Those are some of the skills I can highlight.
Okay. I've noticed you have not talked of specific technologies or anything like that. You are more into a character kind of thing. It's more
Yes.
character first, then the rest follows. That's
Yes,
interesting. So
totally. Because,
Hmm.
Everything can be learned. All solution systems and different things, you can learn them. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the most common vulnerabilities you see in web or mobile app?
Yeah. So web applications, mobile applications, I think people need to understand that um we interface with this every day and APIs as well. And it's very easy to get used to. Oh, I enter my password and my username, I should be good to go. But one of the biggest issues we find are broken authentication and access control. And this is because we look at it on the surface, and yet this is one of the gold mines for any bad actor. So whenever you are creating an application or accessing an application, authentication and access control is it's like the gateway. So that is one of the major flaws we find. Security misconfigurations is another one, especially with headers, because we also deem them they're not very they're not, nothing is going to happen, the application is working, so you may miss to put maybe a content security header, content security policy. Your http headers are not, or you've not put a certificate, an ssl certificate, things which are very obvious, or other misconfigurations as well. You have many. Also, another issue we find is sensitive information exposure, I could say. Like, you find the names of underlying software very easy to find, maybe on an error page, maybe on a page that you're not rendering, but you have left there the name and the version of the server that you're using. So there's a lot of information exposure in very many applications. We also have a lot of people using vulnerable or outdated software, like libraries, dependencies, and these are things that we could easily do away with, but we pick them a lot in very many applications. We also have, at times, when you find someone has left commented out code, like, I think if I would call them bad coding practices. I'm not sure what to call it. There has to be a name for it, but things like leaving commented out code in your application, or maybe you have left password, hard coded passwords in there. Those are very critical. Yeah, so we find those a lot, and I think they are among the top recurring weaknesses we find. Yeah.
Interesting. I realized you are rotating around the OWASP top 10. And yes, that's an
Yeah,
interesting way
because
yeah.
it is, and you see, the other thing is, we find so many times that people are going to put in the right tools, the right firewalls, they have maybe a WAF, but then the small things that are easy to actually, I don't like saying quick wins, but there could be quick wins. We usually ignore them, and so they're
Yeah.
usually the commonest ones. And the most complicated ones, like injections, stuff like that, might not be very obvious, but people put in some time for those, because you will always test and you find they've covered those parts, but they're commonest and they're always recurring. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to that, we need to look at things like the WASP top 10, and then we look through and then we'll be like, okay, have we rolled out this and this? And then we also look at other things concerning the different attacks. Is that like a methodology? I'm trying to look for like a way of, if someone is simplifying their work and they are saying, okay, I've developed an application, so what steps
Mm,
should I take in order to, you know, avoid it being
yeah.
attacked? How would
Yes,
you recommend?
it really, really helps you to have a clear plan and to cover your tracks on almost all fronts, because this OWASP 10 is, and very many scenarios over a long period of time. So this means that they have picked this in very many applications, and they have picked them over and over again over a long period of time. And they have decided that if someone can cover A, B, C, and D in their application, they'll probably avert the most common the most common weaknesses of web applications. So yeah, you would, if you have that as your plan and you say, okay, I've finished this, I've finished that, until you finish all the 10 weaknesses, and you give to a pen tester, they would probably pick nothing.
Yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
think our developers will do that. So more work for you.
Yeah, more work for us.
So, what are your go-to tools when it comes to testing applications? If someone is beginning, if you're
Yes.
looking at open source and a commercial, where would someone start from?
Yeah. For someone who is starting as a person trying to learn how to test for tools, there's so many free platforms, but the best thing to learn from is Kali Linux, and it has inbuilt tools for you to test with, and to try on things, to even configure, like if you want to test something, or you want to put in a new tool or a new configuration. Kali Linux, if one learns how to use it, they'll be able to do a lot of testing for web applications and mobile applications, because you can be able to configure things like Metasploit in there. You can use, for example, if you want to learn how to fish, how to test the people element, you can use the social engineering toolkit within there. You have the harvester, for example, within that. You have so many tools that you can configure in there. Now, when it comes to maybe testing APIs, or even running a scan, you have Babsuit. There's a community edition which can do quite a number of things. And if you are lucky to have a budget, you can have a enterprise one,
Commercial.
which, yeah, the commercial one, which will do both for APIs and for web applications. Then you also have the OWASP Zap, which is also free, right? Yeah, you have to, like in OWASP Zap, you can also do a lot of fuzzing. You can do quite a couple of things in there, and you can test for all injections, especially when you're beginning, because you're trying to learn the concept, but also you want to learn tools that you can easily access, right? So of course, very many other tools like ImmuniWeb, they exist, but some of them have you can run a free test for a certain period of time, but then you have to pay maybe for the next one. But those three, for anyone who is starting, if you learn your Kali very well and you can run your own environment, of course, you need to learn tools like Postman for APIs as well. Like, you need to be able to see what you're testing to support your testing. Yeah. But in terms of assessing, if you learn your Kali, you have your Babsuit Enterprise, you can go to the Web Academy. I think
Yeah.
Portswigger Academy has all the vulnerabilities there, and they teach you how to identify them and how to exploit them and what controls to put in place. So I think that for someone who is beginning, that's a very good place to start. And the academy is also free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, when it comes to reviewing the processes
Yeah.
of the applications, what are the actually, I've already talked about them. Security flaws which are there. Um, let's go to the next one. Seems
Yeah.
I'm a very poor listener at this point because I'm supposed to pick up on that. Uh, anyway, so how do you balance security and developer productivity in an agile environment?
So as security people, we are enablers of business. We are trying not to stop solutions from moving. We are trying to support the flow, and so that people can deliver in the given time frame but deliver a solution that gives them comfort that it has been assessed. So it's important for us to be there from the get go, right? We engage with the developers, with the business people, with the architects of the solutions, so that we are not at the end of the program. We try to create that relationship so that the team doesn't feel that we are bottlenecks for them. So we are there when they're doing the business and the functional requirements. That helps us to also ask our questions if what could go wrong in this flow. It helps to also curb those logical weaknesses. Then it helps us to also create abuse cases. So we try to alert the developer, oh, if this could, if we can use this tool for this, then also a malicious person could use it for that. So we try to be there in that process. And of course, we do a lot of threat modeling. We work with the teams around us to say, okay, guys, let's assess this solution that we have been asked. We look at the architecture. Of course, there is the requirement to have a flow, an architecture flow or a diagram to enable us visualize what we're trying to develop, so that the productivity is not just with the developer to go and just assume and then they build. So they have a certain flow of events so that they can put it together in one thing. And then, of course, at the end of the day, we are going to get into the threat modeling, figuring out the touch points and closing them one by one. That's an ideal situation, I'm saying. Okay, so then we have we have now, in that moment, now we have threat model, the solution, the developer is building, we are working together. And once maybe we have the fast working solution, in if it's a CI/CD pipeline, we expect that the code is being checked at every push, right? Now with the DevSecOps that we're all trying to achieve, to say, let's have automation within the process. So, and of course, after that, we are going to now say you've finished your code, you've developed your app, and it's working fine functionally. But now our security, where is it? So we look at it. Is it critical? Do we need to pen test? Do we need to run scans? Can I manipulate it according to my abuse cases that I told you about earlier? And if I do that, can I try to access? Remember, we talked about broken access controls, authentication. Can I get in? If I put in 5 wrong passwords, what will the application look like? So we try to test against all those 10 10 weaknesses. We try to look at, is there data being exposed, and we do that, of course, manually, especially if there is no need for a pen test. And then once we have all that, we have our findings, or if we don't have any findings, well and good. If we have our findings, of course, you get into the process of engaging the developer. You can find that you've picked up something, but the developer already covered it with another control. So that's why I said you have to have a relationship, not to stop the production or the productivity. Yeah. So you get into a conversation, you present your findings and your evidence. Why are you saying this is there? And maybe the developer will tell you, oh, for that I covered it with this, and then you come to an agreement that, okay, I'll track the following findings. Then he will also agree that this is what I'll do to fix them. And then once that's done, you retest, and now you have a clean application. And of course, you move into deployment. So that's really the process. It is all about engaging. And we try to say we're not enemies of developers, we are enablers of business. So we always want the business people to look at us as people that support them. So I think that in most organizations, that would be the ideal situation. Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious to ask the unideal, but it's okay.
No, I know that very many times we have, for example, you have a lean team, or
Yeah, true.
have you
Yeah,
have a fast throughput, you want to deliver
yeah.
solutions,
Mm.
or there's so many things that would make the situation not ideal. Maybe you don't have the tools, or there's no time, there's just no time. So there's so many reasons why it would not be ideal.
Ideal. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And management is on your neck also.
Yes, so that's when the communication comes in. Remember the communication
Yeah.
you talked about? You should be
Mm,
able to explain why it's important. That
mm,
yes, we may have maybe we have delayed a bit on the deadline, but
mm,
this is why we need to do A, B, C, and D. So when it comes to that, because management understands a risk language, they
mm,
understand money language, what are we standing to lose? So as a technical person, you go with your technical report to your developer, but you come with a, a report, a different report to the non-technical people, and you explain to them in words they'll understand why it's important that they hold on or that they push their plan. And so, yeah, those are the realities that, like I said, of
yeah.
what, of yeah,
Yeah. For those who are curious about it, it's she explained a bit of I'm trying to break it down. There is DevSecOps, which was trying to bring about the idea of developers working with the security team in order to improve deployment, and also CI/CD, which is the continuous integration and continuous development.
yes,
Am I following well?
yes, of course.
Yes, and you're
Today you're
using.
AppSec 101.
I'm like I'm getting AppSec in just one night. Hopefully, I'll be able to remember some of these things. So,
Yes.
so now the big question of how do you stay up to date with the new threats and technologies? Are you the people who sleep with a book in your hand or with a tablet, trying to figure out what new threat is popping up?
Never. Never. I wouldn't be sleeping with a book. But like I said, the spirit of curiosity has to be very key. It's
Mm,
it's something I've seen, and I've seen some of my superiors, my mentors, they don't stop learning. And the challenge to anyone out there is, what's our excuse, right? So every time you're learning something and you stop halfway and you see someone, that's why I think people don't understand how people on LinkedIn manage to put to share how I've done A, B, C, and D. But it's a spirit of curiosity that pushes you. But how I stay up to date, mostly I sign up to so many threat intelligence feeds. And yeah, there's sometimes an overload, but there are times when there is something like the CrowdStrike situation, or you get first-hand information in the threat intelligence feeds. So what you do maybe is to have a separate email, where you know that this one I'm opening for certain information, for things related to this space. So when I go
so
to
it's basically compartmentalizing.
Yes, you compartmentalize it. So
Yeah.
you go to your email where you know the feeds come through, or you've subscribed to certain newsletters, and you just give it like some time. You read like two. And the other thing is maybe LinkedIn. When you're like on LinkedIn and you see something has popped up, you either save it or you put off that time and read it in that moment and just get the gist of it, because this is like our Lugambo.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like our Lugambo, and it doesn't come back. It's for those who are maybe in another country, this is like the buzz, like
The
the
gossip.
Lugambo means the gossip. So these are our gossip channels. So
Yeah.
when you see something, you want to read it there and then, because you can't keep it for later. You won't be able to come back to it. And of course, attending very many forums and conferences, and being able to network with other people in the field, to know this is what they're doing, this is what they're like, this is what's happening in their space. And of course, belonging to communities. For example, we know each other from a community, and so it's easy to share or to ask each other, what tool are you using for this and that? We face this kind of problem, or we're trying to deal this, how did you do it? It's easy to reach out when you have community, like you have real networks with people, so that way you really stay in sync with what's happening. But it's not magic, it's really not magic. it's a culture, or you cultivate of just keeping yourself up with whatever is happening around you. Yeah. And of
Yeah.
course, looking at panels, sharing what you know, that's something that has really helped me, because every time you are maybe on a panel, you
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 get
get
new
a
insight. Yeah.
yes, you get new insights. You get a question from maybe the audience that you hadn't thought of in that perspective. It's not that you don't have that knowledge, you
Mm.
just hadn't tapped into that particular scenario. And also, giving, the more you give to the community, this is how it comes back to you in very many different ways. So yeah, I think those are some of the ways.
I have one big vice when it comes to getting that information, because now a good example would be a podcast. You go and look at the podcast, it's 2 hours. You're like, good Lord.
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
or if you start looking at the news feeds, you be looking through, and then sometimes there are too many in one day. So sometimes it's very hard
but
to keep up with each and every one of them. Have you
I
ever faced
totally
such
get
an
you.
issue?
Yes, I totally get you. I can't sit here and tell you that I read all my news feeds. I have the ones that I'm interested in, maybe the one that is buzzing, or the one that I saw. Maybe, for example, AppSec University is bringing up a new thing. I want to know what's that about, something like that. But I'll tell you the truth, there's so much information. There's only too much you can read, which is why I think that engaging with humans is much easier. But also, our attention span isn't so long. We are easily distracted. There's a notification somewhere. So listening to a podcast of 2 hours is a bit crazy. And that's why I think it's best to get those shorter, you know, for those people who spend a lot of time in their cars, they're those shorter, like 30 minutes, maybe, I don't know, they're not podcasts, but those sessions, if you're trying to learn something new, or people play those things. But there's also, for me, really, I love YouTube. So when I'm at home or I'm just doing something around the house, there could be something playing. I don't need to take notes really. So what I want to be, that's why I've created the cyber cafe actually, because I feel like for the cyber cafe, it's really a platform to say we can relate in technical language and make it simpler. So cyber cafe is on YouTube and Instagram, trying to break down some of these things for other people who may not have that curiosity and desire to listen through an hour session of APIs. So you break it down for them in 15 minutes, give them just top-notch information, and get to know what they feel, or how do they know about passwords and stuff like that. But I feel like that is a real problem for all of us. No one wants to be overwhelmed with information.
I was wondering when you're going to plug yourself, but that's fine. I like us.
Yes, I do. I just said that
Uh,
too.
yeah, I was wondering when it was happening, but that one just chimed in. I was like, okay.
I said that too. Hope you don't bill me.
It's okay. Actually, for those who want to check out um the cyber cafe, I linked it on the show notes. So anyone listening to the show, you can just check in the show notes and you'll find the cyber cafe on YouTube. And I think you've talked of those other platforms. We are also going to include them if Famious is generous enough to send them. Yes, we shall add them to the show notes. So certifications, you know that's a very big buzzword every time. This cert, this that and that and that. Then people end up even not doing anything. One of the
Yeah,
biggest challenges is also people assume that the fact that you have the certificate, you also have the competence, which is not usually aligned most of the times. Because if you
true.
look at someone who can do some of these sets, and you compare it to maybe a training like on Try Hack Me or INE or something like that, where it's more hands-on, you find that there's always a disparity in like the knowledge gap. So what's your opinion on certifications? Should someone start with it, or you find that it's more of like something someone should add on maybe when he's planning on, going to
Yeah.
hunt for jobs and all that?
Thankfully, you asked for my opinion.
Yes, I had to
Yeah.
ask for your opinion because it's a controversial topic.
Yes, it
Mm,
is. It is. You know, every time someone says something like that, I feel like I hope everyone else understands that joke.
yeah.
That it's a controversial topic. But my opinion on certifications is actually maybe a controversial one as well. And I think it comes from my path of how I got into this field. I feel like certifications are supposed to speak to something that you know how to do. You know, you say, I know how to do A, B, C, and D. This certifies that I can do it. So I think that one for someone to go ahead and do a certification, it should be of something they have really, they feel like they have done the work to master, to be able to deliver. But unfortunately, we live in a different world, because for you to be able to get an opportunity, you need to have a certification for you to get the opportunity to even see if you can do the thing. So it's a very discrepant situation. Now it has to be selfish for you, because you need to get that hands-on experience. And I say this especially even for the ladies, because we have that challenge whereby people say, "Oh, we know we need to push for affirmative action," but the ladies sometimes they don't know how to do the thing and all that. So it's very important for all people, both male and female, to get that skill, put in the time. We have to put in the time at every level, whether you've been in the field 10 years, 15 years, or whatever. Then now when you start feeling that comfort, it's good for you, of course, as you go along, because the thing is you get credibility with these certifications. They are a mark to show for if, before you enter a room, no one knows, right? So there's some of these certifications, they go before you. So unfortunately, it's a dynamic. So you need to be able to prove what you have on your certifications. Otherwise, you start getting into imposter syndrome and all that. However, if someone is starting, I would encourage them to first focus on getting the thing. Focus on getting into the INE, getting into Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, get that confidence, because the certifications are also not cheap. They're not cheap. So you need to balance it out, and also start with the ones that really speak more to what you want to do. For example, I'm in AppSec. I would do maybe an AppSec certification, for example. In this case, maybe a certification of application security engineer from maybe EC Council, right? And then I could now move into certified network defender, or I could move in, like, you keep growing before you do CEH. I think CEH actually has a requirement of 5 years experience, and it's something people don't usually say, but it's not cheap. So if you are 1 year into the field and you want to go do CEH, it's a lot of money for you to go and do CEH. Maybe you could start with fundamentals, grow into maybe do CompTIA security, you know. So as you do the thing on the practical side, also you add on that, you find the certification. So there are entry level certifications, there are middle level, and then as you go. So it's important that you do at least one at entry level, or you do two at entry level, then you do one in middle level. Then you go back, do one more, and then as you alternate like that. But it's important to
Uh,
know the levels, so you don't just do only entry level certifications. Yeah.
uh, so you're saying that do entry level, intermediary, and advanced.
Yes, as you add the practical side, because it's really sad to find someone who has a bag of certifications that can't do the thing. And being mad at people who can do the thing and they get into the room because they don't have the certifications, it doesn't help you. So You will be sad with your bag of certifications and you've spent money, but you didn't get that your thing. So you do yourself justice, spend time in the gutters, get the thing, the practical work, I mean, and then keep adding on those certifications, alternating. Yeah, because that's what shows progress.
Well, thank you, Famious.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to debate on that, but I said, okay, let me keep quiet. She's the guest for today. I'll
It's
meet her
my
somewhere.
opinion.
I'll meet her
My
in the
controversial
corner, then
opinion.
we shall fight there.
It's my controversial opinion. But whoever
So,
wants to take it up with me, please inbox me on
yeah.
LinkedIn.
On the cyber cafe, just go in the comment
Yes.
section and yeah. So, any parting shots?
My parting shots is for anyone out there who is maybe contemplating starting a tech career. It doesn't have to be cyber. It can be anything new. Maybe it's you trying to get into data analysis or something else. Just start, like get going. And first of course, evaluate your passions and your personality, your strengths, but also understand why you want to do that thing and get it started, because time is really your ally if you use it. Otherwise, if you don't, you look back on it and be sad or mad about the time you've lost. Then the other thing is to really take care of yourself, because burnout is real, getting tired is real. So rest is very, very important. I say that also to myself. It's important that we
You
we,
are
we
reminding yourself.
Yes, it's important that we rest. It's important that we take care of our mental health. It's important that you balance and do some good exercise and have good friends, have a life probably off your desk so that you can have a balanced life. You don't want to reach at the end of the road and you're that person who has just seated on your computer and you your legacy is just in web applications that no one even remembers of the vulnerabilities you had picked up. So I think it's very important to have good friends, show up for your friends and your family because they really fuel the rest of your journey as you go to work and all that stuff. So they're very important as well. And believe in your God. Give that part of your life also time, yeah, because everything else might will pass away. So it's very important that you cultivate that other side of your life as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Famious. If you've liked what you have been hearing, then you can listen more um, on the Cyber Cafe. So otherwise, thank you, Famious. And I'm sure people would want to know more about you, so they should check you out on LinkedIn. And
Yeah,
what you're doing with the Cyber Cafe is really big, and I'm sure it's going to blow up sooner or later. And the level of, I have been watching it because I'm looking at potential competitors in the future. I'm doing
wow.
my I'm doing my OSINT very well. So the cyber cafe will be our next big competitor in the country when it comes to talking about cybersecurity, because I like the way she's bringing it up, short videos, and the aspect of bringing it down to earth to the common man, which is something which is really unique. And I feel like we have less of that. Sometimes we overcomplicate terminologies and then we kind of lose out on people. And
Mhm.
people have no it's like what you said in the beginning. You said we have, when you are beginning, you had very few mentors or people to talk to concerning cybersecurity. So
Yeah,
if we have more people in the playing field and showing up, putting it on YouTube, on all those platforms, at least it gives people more opportunity to actually know about the field and also get inspired. And
true.
That's the purpose of the Cyber Cafe. That's the purpose of the Cyber Weekly. So we are pushing. We are
You've put it
pushing.
well.
Yeah, we are pushing, and we are trying to help as many as we can learn
Yes.
about the field. So this has been all about AppSec. We are going to have another guest next week, talking about something else, IT risk, if I'm not mistaken, and data privacy. So stay tuned and have a good one.
Right. Bye.